All right, so let's get to the roster. What did you think was interesting about who got cut and why?
Well, it's the most interesting things to me are always who makes the team, who doesn't get cut. The cuts are usually pretty predictable, but and these two are both pretty predictable, but they're both recent, decently high draft picks in Tyler Scott and Zach Pickens. Zach Pickens was 64th overall. He was the first pick of the third round that year, I believe, and he would have been, I guess, a second rounder because the Dolphins forfeited their first round pick that year. So that's a pretty big miss. I would say 64th overall. You cut him a couple years later, never developed into any kind of starter for them. But some of the interesting guys that stayed, for example, they're keeping 10 offensive linemen. All four of those tackles who were competing for the left tackle job are staying. So Theo Benedette, who a year ago is an undrafted rookie out of Canada and spends all year on the practice squad, has made the 53 for now. Well, I mean, things can change when they go through the waiver wire, but that's pretty impressive. It also speaks to the fact that they're not more defined at left tackle right now. They don't have concrete answers, and you have Ben Johnson this morning basically saying uh, about his starter, like, "Hey, yeah, we'll have a starter, and then we'll go from there." So he's not committing to a starter. It's probably Braxton Jones, but even then, he's not committing to Braxton Jones for any extended period of time.
And Jay, what did you take from that particular aspect of it? Tanny and Alex played that for us a little bit earlier, and I wasn't completely sure to interpret that as a we got time to keep looking externally here, or the competition goes on. Let's just keep these guys on pins and needles while they spend the next few days still trying to earn this gig.
Yeah, I think he just doesn't want to say. I think that it's Braxton Jones, and he just doesn't want to come out and declare anything that he doesn't have to. I doubt that they would be looking outside right now for a starting left tackle. But I think that it speaks to just his tone about that and how flippant Ben Johnson has been in the last few days about the plan for the season at left tackle. It really speaks to how disappointed and frustrated he is with their situation at left tackle. And Ryan Poles should be too. I mean, Ryan Poles just a few minutes ago was talking about how thrilled he is with the offensive line, and they sunk a lot of resources into the offensive line to then be a team that less than 2 weeks before their opener is kind of whatever at left tackle.
What did you think of the conversation about the running back room? Because right now, like, you don't have a lot of healthy bodies, and you cut some of the healthy bodies.
We talked to the entire running back room today when DeAndre Swift walked in. That was it. It was weird because at practice today, you've been to a million of these practices, both of you guys. They will be doing individual drills. So you'll see wide receiver and before they cut to 53, it's a ton of guys at all these positions. So you have wide receivers running routes and you're catching passes, and you'll have offensive linemen blocking against each other and things like that. You look over to the running back area of the field for individual drills, and it is one guy. It is Eric Bieniemy and DeAndre Swift. And Rome Odunze got a little bit of work at running back today. I don't think that's going to be a thing. I think it's just why not? There's some running back work there to be taken today if you're bored. And DJ Moore is going to be a spot guy here and there. Their main message about that position is that the other guys will be fine by the time the games roll around. Although Travis Homer is kind of their emergency option there and a key special teamer, and they put him on IR to start the season, so he's out the first 4 games. But one of the things, Lawrence and Ant, that you can draw from that, you can talk about kind of jumping off of that is, their running back room for the season really is DeAndre Swift and nobody else. Because Roshan Johnson is a big question mark. We just don't even know what he is after last season. Kyle Monanga is a 7th-round pick. A lot of times a running back picked in the 7th round is shaky to even make the roster at the end of his rookie training camp. And DeAndre Swift, for whatever flaws he had last year, is going to be their number 1 and number 2 option at running back. He is going to have to not only give them what they need in terms of his style of running, which he keeps saying, "Oh, I didn't change anything," and Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles keep saying, "Oh, he changed a lot," and we love it. There isn't anyone proven after him, so he has to be incredibly durable, and I think he is going to get the ball so much as both a runner and a pass catcher this year.
That's one of the things that I'm really intrigued about, because Ben Johnson has been so adept at taking pressure off his O-line and off his quarterback by utilizing the run game and doing it so well in Detroit. That's where it feels like this glaring omission to not have more proven depth at running back. And yes, veterans, if there's any spot where vets are available, it tends to be running back. But I mean, you've heard from both Johnson and Poles about this today. I mean, so you're not getting any indication that they're nervous about the depth in that room?
No. And I think they feel really good. I think they would have liked to have done some things, but all these big names have come up and they haven't jumped on any of these guys. All of these known names, I should say. And you have to really be careful everywhere, but especially at running back, about falling in love with this name, because that position ages so fast. And a guy that was a name 2 years ago might not be really anywhere close to that same player now. But really the time to address that would have been to attack it earlier in the draft. And you could say the same thing at left tackle with Ozzie Trapillo, who has not in the short time he's been here been the answer that they hoped he would be as a potential starting left tackle. You got to jump on those positions earlier. And when you look at what they did in the draft, at 10th overall, they take a tight end. And at 39th overall, they take a wide receiver. And while I know that Ben Johnson loves those players, and Ben Johnson probably looked at the skill talent on the Bears roster when he took the job and said, that's not enough for what I need to do. But you have to prioritize your needs if you're serious about winning now. They probably should have addressed those positions, running back and offensive tackle, earlier than they did in the draft.
What's it been like covering the Jaylon Johnson story this camp?
Murky, weird. I mean, it was strange that Ben Johnson deferred and wouldn't just answer what the injury was. And Ryan Poles later this afternoon, even talking about it, was still kind of vague. He did call it a soft tissue injury, but you could have assumed that. He just indicated it was more of a soft tissue injury than you would normally get, a more serious one than usual. And the conversation starts with, well, he's going to be out a few weeks back at the beginning of training camp, to then pivoting to, yeah, he should be back by week 1, to now today, Ben Johnson on Jaylon's availability for the opener saying, we'll see. And then on top of that, wondering whether he'll, even if he is structurally sound and good at that point, recovered, if you want to put it that way, is he going to have the stamina to play every play? Because Jaylon Johnson typically doesn't come out of a game at all. He plays pretty much 100% of the snaps. He played 97% of the total snaps last year, didn't miss a game.
The ability for Jaylon Johnson to travel with the opposing team's best receiver, it's one of the things a lot of us have been excited about him getting the potential to do with Dennis Allen. And I'm hoping that, one of you guys, when you get the next time you get to talk to DA, because I heard Biggsy kind of reference it a bit with Ben Johnson earlier from a conditioning perspective, and that's where it puts additional stress on the corner himself and frankly on the rest of the secondary if you have a guy traveling. And it feels like it's far-fetched to think that even if Jaylon is active for game 1, that they'll say, you're ready to just cover Justin Jefferson all over the field. That's a big ask.
Jaylon will want to do that if he thinks he is physically ready for that, because as much as you and I have been waiting for Jaylon Johnson to be used that way, Jaylon Johnson has been dying to be used that way. He has always been very diplomatic about it and been very willing to play ball and say, well, this is how Pagano runs his defense, or this is how Eberflus runs his defense, and been cooperative and signed on for the role. But I don't know what they would do exactly if they felt like he could help them, but they weren't confident in getting 60 or 70 snaps out of him in a game. I don't know if they would try a platoon situation, or if they would just say, hey, he's not ready this week, we're just holding him out. I got to think Jaylon Johnson for half the game is still an asset to you.
Jade Walker's story is really interesting. And honestly, I know that he was the star of last week's game. But if you look in the games that were played, he's made a big play in all of them. And it kind of goes under the radar because the Bears wide receiving core is pretty much taken care of. I'm not surprised that he's still here for now. I wonder what they think of him.
I think they think, Lawrence, that he can be something in the long run. And they've seen enough from Tyler Scott, for example, to know that that probably isn't the case, that Tyler Scott isn't going to be an impact maker in the long run for them. You're right when you say their wide receiver core is stacked, and they've even already got a developmental guy ahead of him in Luther Burden. I don't know how much of a role, a set role Luther Burden will have in the offense right now, because it sounds like he really has a lot to learn, but the talent is there. So I mean, he's definitely not overtaken Zacchaeus in the pecking order there. Zacchaeus has had an awesome camp and has a pretty good track record in the NFL already. I think that they're looking at Walker and saying, this is a guy we don't want to let out of the building, and that they would have concern over him getting claimed if they waived him.
With Olamide Zacchaeus, I mean, if we go back to the offseason before anyone stepped onto a practice field, just where the roster sat coming out of the draft, there would have been several names of, sort of top flight pass catchers who would be at the top of Caleb's progression on a consistent basis, or whether DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, even Luther Burden coming out of the draft, both tight ends. But Olamide Zacchaeus seems to be the guy he has most consistently had big connections with. What has Ben Johnson said about that, the Caleb to Zacchaeus connection, how it's developed, and if it's exciting to him in the scope of everything else he has to work with?
Well, Ben Johnson said, just like we would all say who've been watching practice for the last month or so, that Zacchaeus has just been phenomenal. He has just absolutely blown them away in training camp. And I like it as a story. I like that this guy who has bounced around to a couple of teams and is 28 years old, and they've drafted this hotshot second rounder in Luther Burden, and there are all these other guys coming for his job, and Olamide Zacchaeus has successfully defended his spot by just being excellent, being everywhere at the right time in the right place. And the guys that you have seen, I don't want everyone to hear this and bet their house on their fantasy football team or something like that. But the guys that you have seen Caleb throw to the most have been Rome Odunze and Zacchaeus. And I also think that we haven't seen a ton of it, but you're going to see DeAndre Swift be a big factor in there too. And then obviously we all know that DJ Moore can do anything with anybody, that he has played with all of these bad quarterbacks in his career, and including like a struggling, trying to figure it out rookie Caleb Williams. And DJ Moore produces no matter what. He finds a way to produce no matter who the Carolina Panthers or the Chicago Bears put out there to play quarterback for him. So I think that with Zacchaeus's really, really strong camp, the biggest way that that translates to what you'll see in the season is I think it can be a really balanced passing attack. And there have been years where it's not. There have been years where there are guys out there like Equinemius St. Brown that you just know are out there to run block or something, and they're just not going to be a factor in the passing game.
Speaking of Rome, we haven't talked a lot about him, and it's so weird. If there was no Caleb Williams, the development of Rome Odunze.
You've been on this from jump, by the way, man. Like, but before they were even barely on the field, I really love the fact that you pointed this out going into last season. Caleb provided cover for Rome Odunze, and it ended up being a fairly meh rookie season for Rome.
What did they say he needs to get better at?
I think that Rome has. I talked to him last month about just some of the changes here with the way the offense is run now. And one of the things he told me is that you go through your rookie season trying to figure everything out. And with the way things were run last year, it's not always clear to you if you're doing things the right way. So you think you're doing things the right way, and then nobody says anything about it, and you carry on doing it that way, even if it is a little imprecise. I doubt that is happening this year. It's not happening this year. He is hearing about it every time he, runs a route imperfectly or whatever. He's kind of got a long stride, so he has to factor that in to where he's going to be and when he's going to make his breaks and things like that. He, like Caleb, has craved the coaching expertise that they're getting now, because it is way too hard for a lot of people, but especially as a rookie, to kind of operate in this gray area of, I think I'm doing the right thing, but I'm not really sure. And they are definitely sure now. I think that Rome has the opportunity to be a much more versatile threat under Ben Johnson than he was last year. I think that there's going to be so much moving him around from the slot to outside and maybe even out of the backfield sometimes, although again that just seemed like kind of something they were doing today just to change things up.